Welcome to the White Room. Turn off the lights, stay still, and listen. The last message on the phone. The phone rang at 11:58 p.m. Not buzzed, not vibrated, rang. I hadn't heard that sound in years. Nobody calls anymore, especially not this late, especially not on a phone that didn't even have a SIM card in it. The screen lit up with no caller ID. I didn't answer it. I'm not brave. I'm not curious enough to pretend I am. The ringing stopped after the sixth ring. A moment later, my phone chimed. One new voicemail. That made no sense. You don't get voicemail if you don't answer. You definitely don't get voicemail on a phone that hasn't been connected to anything since I moved. I told myself it was a glitch. Electronics do dumb things. People say that when they don't want to panic. I played the message. At first, there was only breathing. Slow, careful, like whoever was on the other end was trying not to be heard. Then a voice whispered my name. Not my nickname, not the shortened version, my full name, the one only my parents used, and one of them was dead. "I'm sorry," the voice said. "I didn't mean to wake you." The message ended. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the phone, waiting for the delayed fear response to hit. It didn't arrive all at once. It leaked in slowly, like cold air under a door. I checked the voicemail timestamp. Tomorrow. I deleted the message. The phone rang again at 12:03. This time, I answered it. I wish I hadn't. The line was quiet for several seconds. No static, no background noise, just the sensation of someone being there. "You listened faster last time," the voice said. My mouth went dry. "Who is this?" A pause. "Still doesn't remember," the voice said softly. Then, "That's okay. You never do at first." The call ended. I shut the phone off completely and pulled the battery out, like that would somehow impress the universe. I didn't sleep. At 6:41 a.m., my phone turned itself back on. There were 27 missed calls, all from no caller ID. There were also voicemails, so many that my inbox couldn't display them properly. The notification counter just showed a dash instead of a number. I played the first one. It was my voice, not a recording I recognized, not something I remembered saying. "I think something's wrong with my phone," my voice said, nervous, breathless. "If anyone gets this, please tell me how to make it stop calling." The second voicemail was also my voice. "This isn't funny anymore." The third was quieter. "I can hear it breathing now." I dropped the phone. The rest of the day felt out of sync. People paused too long before responding to me. Traffic lights stayed yellow longer than usual. Every reflection I passed seemed slightly delayed, like it needed an extra second to decide what I was doing. That night, the phone rang again. I didn't answer. The voicemail played automatically. "You always do this part. You think ignoring me will change the ending." There was a sound like fabric dragging across the floor. "I'm getting closer," it added. I ran out of my apartment and didn't stop until I reached a friend's place across town. I left the phone behind. I was proud of that decision for about 10 minutes. At 2:14 a.m., my friend's phone rang. No caller ID. He answered it before I could stop him. He listened for several seconds, then frowned, then handed the phone to me. "It's for you," he said. "You sound upset." The voice on the line sighed when it heard me. "There you are," it said. "You really shouldn't give me new numbers. It makes things messy." I asked it what it wanted. "I want you to remember before you do it again." The line filled with noise suddenly. Wind, sirens, shouting, then screaming. My screaming. I pulled the phone away from my ear, but the sound followed, echoing inside my head.
Images flashed in my mind: a car, headlights, a road I didn't recognize, my hands shaking on the wheel. The call ended. I collapsed onto the floor. Over the next few days, the voicemails filled in the gaps. They showed me things I had forgotten on purpose. The accident, the other car, the moment where I chose to run instead of helping, the way I changed my number, my apartment, my name, and convinced myself that survival meant innocence. The last voicemail arrived at 11:58 p.m. again. My voice whispered, "I see you now." The phone rang. I answered it, already knowing what would be on the other end. "You remember," it said. It sounded relieved, almost kind. "What happens now?" I asked. A pause. "Now," it said, "you stop calling me." The line went dead. The phone hasn't rung since, but sometimes late at night I hear my ringtone coming from places where my phone isn't, from the bathroom, from the back seat of my car, from inside my own chest. And every time I know exactly who's calling, because some messages don't need a signal. They just need you to finally listen.
The sound that only follows you. The sound started 3 weeks after I moved into the house, and once you hear it, you don't get to decide whether it stops. At first, it was faint enough to ignore, a soft, uneven noise, like something dragging its fingers across fabric. I noticed it late at night when everything else was quiet. It always came from behind me. If I turned around, it stopped. I assumed it was the house settling. Old houses love excuses. Pipes contract, wood shifts. Ghosts, allegedly, keep respectable hours. I kept living my life. The sound returned every night, always the same rhythm, slow, patient, too deliberate to be random, not loud enough to be threatening, but close enough to feel intentional. I tested it. I stood still in the hallway and waited. The sound grew clearer. Not scraping, not footsteps, breathing. I spun around. Nothing there. The moment my eyes left the empty space, the breathing resumed, closer than before. That's when I realized something important. It wasn't coming from the house. It was coming from wherever I wasn't looking. I tried lights, lamps, overheads, every bulb on at once. The sound didn't care. Darkness wasn't the point. Attention was. If I focused on my laptop, the breathing came from behind the screen. If I watched TV, it drifted just past the edge of my vision. If I stared at the wall, it pressed in close behind my shoulder. The instant I looked directly at where it should be, silence. I stopped sleeping. Exhaustion made it worse. My peripheral vision started lying to me. Shadows leaned where they shouldn't. Corners looked deeper than geometry allowed. One night the sound changed. It inhaled sharply, then exhaled my name. I didn't react. That was a mistake. The breathing moved closer, close enough that I could feel warmth against my neck, like someone standing too near in a crowded room. I ran. Outside, the air felt wrong, too still. The sound followed me down the driveway, across the street, into my car. It never came from the front seat. I drove until sunrise. The sound faded with daylight, but it never vanished completely. It lingered at the edge of hearing, like a reminder. I told no one. Saying it out loud felt dangerous, like giving it shape. The second phase began when it learned my routines. The breathing synced with my footsteps, paused when I paused. If I stopped suddenly, it took one extra breath, like it hadn't expected me to notice. Sometimes I could hear fabric shifting, weight redistributing. Something was standing there. I bought cameras, set them up around the house, pointed them everywhere I refused to look. The footage showed empty rooms, but the audio picked it up perfectly.
Not just breathing, mouth sounds, wet, careful movements, the sound of someone smiling too slowly. On the 5th night of recording, a whisper appeared. Not my name. Too slow. I stopped using the cameras. After that, it stopped hiding. I began to see impressions, not full shapes, just distortions in the air like heat ripples in the wrong places. Sometimes, when I turned quickly enough, I caught the suggestion of a face pulling itself back into nothing. It was learning timing. It wanted me to look. The rules became clear soon after. If I acknowledged it, it moved closer. If I ignored it, it followed. If I panicked, it breathed faster. If I stayed calm, it waited. I tried wearing a hood, sunglasses, keeping my back against walls. None of it worked. The sound adjusted, repositioned, adapted. One night it stood so close that when it inhaled, my hair moved. I whispered, "What do you want?" The breathing stopped. Then, right beside my ear, it whispered back, "To be seen." The moment I understood that, it touched me. Just a fingertip against my wrist, light, testing. I screamed and turned. Silence. But something was wrong with the room. The space behind me looked used, like something had been occupying it for a long time. The air felt compressed, heavy, reluctant to spring back into place. That's when I realized the truth. It wasn't following me. It was standing still. I was the one moving around it, every night, every room, orbiting something I refused to face. The final night came when I was too tired to care. I stood in the center of the living room, heart pounding, breath shaking, and said, "Fine." The sound was immediate, right behind me, so close that our breathing synced. I didn't turn. I said, "Show me." It laughed, not out loud, inside my head, a sound made of relief. Then it stepped forward. I didn't see it. I felt it pass me through, cold, heavy, crowded. The room behind me exhaled as if it had been holding its breath for years. The sound stopped forever. I thought I had won. I was wrong, because now, wherever I go, there's always someone who won't look at me, someone who keeps glancing just past my shoulder, someone who swears they hear breathing when I walk by. And when I pass them, when I move just out of their sight, I feel it, that familiar warmth, that patient breath, waiting for them to turn around.
The house that learned our names. No one remembered when the house at the end of Calder Lane was built. It didn't appear on old maps, didn't show up in property records, and didn't belong to any family anyone could name. It simply existed, pressed into the tree line like it had been grown there rather than constructed. Locals avoided it with the quiet consistency of people who didn't need to explain why. When asked, they always said the same thing. It's not abandoned, it's waiting. I moved into Calder Lane in late October, drawn by cheap rent and the kind of isolation that makes loneliness feel intentional instead of pathetic. My job had gone remote, my social life had collapsed into a few unread messages, and I wanted silence. Calder Lane offered plenty of that. The house at the end of the road was the only thing that broke the calm. It sat farther back than the others, partially hidden by trees whose branches curved inward as if pulled by gravity toward its roof. No lights ever came on inside, no cars parked outside, but it never looked empty. The windows reflected the sky wrong, darker than they should have been, like they were absorbing light instead of bouncing it back. The first night, I noticed it watching me. I was unloading boxes when I felt the pressure. That sensation you get when someone is standing just behind you, close enough to feel their breath. I turned, expecting a neighbor. Instead, every window of the house was facing me. I don't mean that metaphorically. The windows were positioned at different angles on different floors, but somehow all of them felt aligned, like eyes adjusting focus. I laughed it off, told myself I was tired, and went inside. That night, I dreamed of hallways. Not my house, not any house I recognized. Endless hallways stretching forward and folding back on themselves, doors lining the walls. Every door had a name carved into it. Some were familiar, some were half forgotten. Others were names I had never heard before, but somehow knew belonged to people who would matter to me later. At the end of the hallway was a door with my name. I woke up at 3:17 a.m. to the sound of knocking. 3 slow knocks, measured, polite. My front door was locked. I checked it anyway. No one was there, but as I turned away, I noticed something scratched into the wood from the outside. My name. I didn't sleep after that. Over the next few days, the house began to change. Subtle things at first. A new window where there hadn't been one before. A door on the side facing my house that I swore didn't exist yesterday. The structure seemed to be reconfiguring itself, adjusting its shape like it was learning how to be seen. The neighbors noticed too. One afternoon, I asked the woman across the street if the house looked different to her. She stared at it for a long time before answering. "It's closer," she said. I laughed, waiting for her to join in. She didn't. That night, I heard voices coming from the house. Soft, indistinct, too many to count. They weren't screaming, they weren't whispering. They sounded like people having conversations just out of earshot. Familiar tones, familiar rhythms. At one point, I was sure I heard my own voice responding. I shut the blinds. That was my first mistake.